everyone, and welcome to today's maths. Today what we're going to be doing is we are going to be finding related multiplication and division facts. Now, we are all professionals with our multiplication and division now, so I'm sure that we're going to find this a breeze today, okay? So we're going to be exploring that relationship between the two in a little bit more detail. Okay, so just like we do every single maths lesson, we are going to begin with some counting. So you can start at a random number and you can count in your tens. I'm going to put one on the board for us now. So I'm going to choose the number 67, okay? So remember, when we're counting in our tens, the only number that changes is this one, okay? So what would the next number be? 67, 77, brilliant. The next one, 87, 97, and so on, okay? So I want you to pick a random number and you can have a go at counting in your tens. You can also challenge yourself to count backwards in your tens as well. So this would be a great opportunity now for you to pause the video and have a little practice of your counting in tens. Okay, time for the subitizing part of our lesson. So all I want you to do is count the dots. Ooh, okay. Remember, they're on the tens frame, so think about how many are on a tens frame when it's full. Again, let's count the dots. Ooh, there you go. Let's see the next one. Remember, eyes on the screen, get ready to count those dots. For this next one, you may need to identify how many dots there are and count in something. So it's counting in equal groups of something. Are you ready? Oh, there we go. Let's see if you got it right. Okay, eyes on the screen. Let's see if we can work out this next one, okay? Oh, okay. Now, time to review. The first one, there were 3 equal groups of 10. So 10, 20, 30. So if you said 30 for the first one, you would be correct. The next one, there was a full set of 10 and another full set of 10, which is equal to 20, because 10 and 10 is 20. And then there were 3 more, so that is 23, because there are 2 10s and 3 1s. Okay. Oh, here we had to count in our 3s, didn't we? So 3, 6, 9. Well done if you got that one correct. And finally, we had 2 full rows at the top, which I know are 5 and 5. So that's 5, add 5, which is 10. And then 2 more, which is 11 and 12. Okay. Or you could have seen that as double 6, because you could have spotted that one was 6 and the next one was exactly the same. So the answer for that one was the number 12. So if you got that one correct, you can give yourselves a big round of applause. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Right, what I would like you to do now is I would like you to have a go at calculating these equations, okay? So if I was mentally calculating this first equation, okay, I'll just underline it now. If I was mentally calculating this, I would probably use my boxing in method, because I know that 6 and 3 is equal to 9. So without doing anything, I just know that 6 add 3 more is 9, okay? So the answer would be 49, okay? Because I don't need to do anything to my tens there, do I? Because there's no tens that I am adding to, okay? So my answer is 49, okay? Now I'm going to check this using the inverse operation, because remember, our inverse operation is where we take our answer, we take away a part, and that will help us to find out if our answer is correct, okay? Because if it works out that 49 take away 3 is equal to 46, then I know that my answer that I've put of 49 is correct. So watch, I'm going to check it using the inverse. So 49 minus 3, or take away 3, is equal to 46. So by checking it using the inverse, I can see that my first answer that I calculated, 49, is correct. Super. Let's have a go at another one together. Okay. Down here, we've got 46 add 30. So this time, I know that I just need to add on in my tens, don't I? I don't necessarily need to do anything to my ones because I'm just adding 0 to 6. And when we add a 0, that means that the number doesn't change, doesn't it? Okay, so 40 add 30 is 70. And then I know that I don't have to do anything to my 6 there, okay? Because I know 4 and 3 is 7, so that's 70. And my 6, I don't have to do anything to that because it is a 0 there. So my answer is 76. And again, I'm going to check it using the inverse operation. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 76 take away 46, okay? It doesn't matter if I take away the 46 or the 30 because they're both my parts that make 76 my whole. So when I'm doing the inverse operation, I can do my whole, which is 76, or what I think is the right answer. 76, take away one of my parts, and I'm choosing to take away 46. Okay, so let's have a look if I get the answer of 30, because if I do get the answer of 30, that will mean that my answer earlier, the 76, would be correct. So let's have a look. 76 take away 46, well, I'm going to take away my tens first. So if I know 7 take away 4, then I know 70 take away 40. So 7 take away 4 is equal to 3. So 70 take away 40 is equal to 30. Okay? Then I'm going to move on to my ones column. And I've got 6 take away 6. So 6 take away 6 is equal to 0. So my answer is 30. Okay? My answer is 30. So I know that my answer up here of 76, where it was a whole 76, I know that that's correct now because I've done the inverse operation to check my answer, so I can give that a tick. Okay, let's have a go at doing one more together because this is quite tricky, and then what we will do is I will leave the final one for you to have a go at yourselves. Okay, so let's calculate this mentally. Okay, 36 add 3, well I know that 6 add 3 is 9, and I know that I don't need to do anything to my 10 because there are no 10s to add to, okay? So I know that the answer is 39, okay? Now let's check it using the inverse operation. So I need to take my whole, which was 39 here, because 36 and 3 are my parts that I put together to find my whole. And I'm going to do 39, nice and easy, take away one of my parts. I'm going to take away 3, I've decided. I could do 39, take away 36, but that would be a much tricky calculation. I'm going to make things easy for myself today. 39, take away 3. Well, if I know that I can do my boxing in method here, and I could do 9 take away 3, which is 6. So I'm going to do that for you now. 9 take away 3 equals 6. and then I bring my 30 down. So my answer is, put them back together, 36. So I know that the calculation I did earlier is correct because my parts are still 36 and 3, which are equal to my whole, which is 39. Okay, have a go at doing the next one on your own independently. Now, I know this is tricky stuff, so if you do find it a bit tricky, it's okay. We've not covered this in quite a while, all right? And we will be coming back to it in the next term anyway. So please don't worry if you don't get this right and you've just done it with the guided practice from me. It is very tricky stuff, so it's okay. Just have a little go and see how you get on. So remember everybody, this is the part of the lesson that we go through your key vocabulary. So remember, when you're explaining anything throughout the lesson, you might like to use some of these words in your explanations, okay? So, my turn, your turn. Divide, divide, part, whole, equal, multiply, and groups. Brilliant, okay? So remember, you might want to use some of this key vocabulary throughout your lesson today. Okay, let's play a game. You now need to listen carefully. You need to have a piece of paper and a pen at the ready. So if you haven't got that now, please pause the video and go and get yourself a pen and a bit of paper, okay? Now, what you're going to do is you are going to draw the array that I explained to you. Remember, an array is just an arrangement of columns and rows, and it can be an arrangement of anything. It can be pictures, it can be absolutely anything at all. It could be cubes, Smarties, it could be people, but for today we're going to use dots in our array, okay? So you need to listen now, and I'm going to say it in two different ways. You don't need to draw two of them, you just need to draw one of them, okay? So I'm going to say it in two different ways, but you just need to draw one, okay? So I would like you to draw an array that's got 2 rows with 4 dots in each. Okay, so 2 rows with 4 dots in each. In this array that you've just drawn, there should be 4 columns with 2 dots in each. So there should be, if you've drawn it correctly, 4 columns with 2 dots in each. Let's see if you got it right. Here we go. Excellent. It should look like mine. Can you see there are 2 rows with 1, 2, 3, 4 in each? Or if you were doing it the second way I described, there are 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4 columns with 2 in each column. Okay, so it should look something like mine. Let's just rub that off. Now, let's have a look. How could we describe this array then? Okay, we're going to look at how we could describe it in different ways. So we could use our part-whole model. The whole is 8 because there are 8 dots altogether, and the parts are 4 and 4 because there are 4 on the top row and there are 4 on the bottom row. How could we write this as a calculation then? We're thinking about how we would write it as a multiplication and a division equation today, because we're looking for that relationship between the two. So if we were writing it as a multiplication, you can see we've got 2 groups of 4, haven't we? We've got the top group and we've got the bottom group. I'll just see if I can draw it on now. We've got the top group and we have the bottom group as well. Okay, so there are 1 group, 2 groups of 4, which is equal to 8. So if we were writing it as a multiplication, it would be 2 times 4. If we look at it on our parts whole model, we've got 2 parts, 1, 2, that are both worth 4. So we've got 2 times 4, haven't we? Okay. Now, if we were looking at it as a division or a shared by, we have 8 shared by 2, don't we? So we've got 8 over here as our whole, because remember when we're dividing, we always start with our whole, and we're sharing by or grouping into 2 different groups. There are 2 parts, there's 1 there and 1 there. So it's 8 divided by or shared by 2, okay? We could have looked at this in a different way. Let's have a look, because this representation, we could have turned it around and looked at it differently. Let's see it now on the next page. Okay, so we could have looked at the array like this. We could have said that it was 1, 2, 3, 4. We could have said there are 4 rows with 2 in each. Look, 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, both with 1, 2 on each. Or we could have looked at it as 2 columns, both with 4 in each. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's different to the representation that we looked at earlier, okay? However, it's still the same, isn't it? There's still the same amount of dots, and we're still working with the same parts and wholes, okay? So let's have a look then at how we would write this on our parts whole model. So here we've got the whole as 8, and we've split it into 4 groups of 2. Let's look at that now. So here we've got 1 group of 2, 2 groups of 2, 3 groups of 2, and 4 groups of 2. Okay, so hopefully you can see that there are 4 parts that are each worth 2. Okay, let's have a look at what this would look like as a multiplication and a division. Okay, have a little think now. Looking at the pictorial representations, what do you think the multiplication would look like? How many groups of 2 have we got? Okay, and then think about your division. We need to divide from our whole. So we would need to start with 8, and how many groups are we sharing it into? You might want to pause video now before I reveal the answer and have a little go yourself. Here we go. So if we were looking at the multiplication, it would be 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 2, wouldn't it? So 4 groups of 2, and we would write this as our multiplication. 4 multiplied by 2 is equal to 8. And if we were looking at our division, we would do 8, because that's our whole, and we're going to share it by 1, 2, 3, 4 groups there, which would equal 2, because in each group there are 2. Each group is worth 2. If we had 8 sweets and we were dividing them between 4 children, each of the children would get 2. Okay? So, for the array that we've just been looking at, there are 4 equations that we could write. Okay? We've got our 2 multiplication and our 2 division equations. Here's the array again. If you look, you can see that it's 2 times 4. So you've got 2 rows of 4. Okay, so 2 times 4, which equals 8. And you can also see that it's 4 columns with 2 in each. So here we are able to write our 2 multiplication equations. Remember, multiplication is commutative. So those numbers, those parts, can be swapped around and they will still equal the whole, okay? So remember that when you're trying to find your multiplication equations in your independent task today. Now, let's look at the division, okay? So remember, when we're finding the division, we take the whole number first, so we can see that there are 8 altogether there, okay? Now, if we were to divide those 8 into 2, or to share them into 2 equal groups, we would have 4 in each, wouldn't we? Excellent. And also, if we had our whole of 8, we could split 8 into 4 groups of 2, okay? So let me just show you for the division, just to clarify. So for our division, we've got 8. We can split it into 2, and we will have 2 groups that both contain 4, okay? Or we could do it in a different way, couldn't we? For our second equation, if we had our total of 8, we could split it into 4 groups and there would be 2 in each. Watch. There's 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, and 4 groups with 2 in each. Okay, so hopefully you can see there how you come up with your 2 multiplication and 2 division equations, because that's what you're going to be doing in your independent task today. You're going to have some arrays and you're going to come up with the 4 equations, 2 multiplication and 2 division for each of them, okay? Right, let's develop your learning a little bit further. So just like yesterday, we're going to be looking at a hidden array. So remember yesterday we looked to see how many there were in the rows. So how many there was here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 rows, aren't there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. And then there are how many columns? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5 rows times by 4 columns will give us our answer. So 5 times 4. Oh, very nice. We'll have a go at doing that now. Okay, so we're going to count on our 5s using our fingers, and we will stop when we get to 4. Are you ready? 5, 10, 15, 20. So our answer is 20. Brilliant. Okay. So if we know that 5 times 4 is 20, then we also know something else, because we know that multiplication is commutative. So think about what else you also know. If you know 5 times 4 is 20, you know that you can swap the numbers around and find another multiplication equation. Have a go at finding that now. Okay, let's have a look. So the answer was 20, and we're thinking about the 4 equations. So the first 2, the multiplication ones, you should have already thought about. Now let's think about the division equations. So we should have our whole, which is 20, and we should divide it by one of our parts. And remember, one of our parts was the amount of rows that we have. So our first equation could be 20 divided by 5. I'm going to go ahead and write that. 20 divided by 5 is equal to, you guessed it, 4. Amazing. Have a little think now. You might want to pause the video and you might want to come up with the next division equation, or you might want to write all 4 of those equations down before I reveal the answer. Okay, so here is the answer. We've got 5 times 4, which is equal to 20. And we know that it's commutative, so we can swap those numbers around. And we also know 4 times 5 is equal to 20. We've got 20 divided by 4, which is equal to 5. And we also have 20 divided by 5, which is equal to 4. Okay? So what you're going to be doing in today's task is you are going to be making each of these arrays. So you could use anything that you've got lying around at home. You could use coins, counters, Smarties. You could even use pasta if you like, or you could just draw out the dots separately, or you could draw love hearts or something instead. Okay? So what you're going to do is once you've drawn that, once you've made that array, I want you to describe each of them using the 2 multiplication and 2 division equations. And what I will do is I will go through the first 2 with you now, because I understand that this is quite a tricky thing to get your head around. So let's have a go at doing this one together. This is on your worksheet, okay? So I'm going to look at that array and I'm going to pretend that I have just made it, okay? Now I can see that there are, let's have a look first of all. I can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, and there are 1, 2 columns. So I know that to find how many there are altogether, I will need to do 5 times 2, okay? 5 times 2. So I'm going to count in my 5s until I get up to 5 times 2, okay? So I'm going to get my fingers and I might count 2 fingers in my 5s to count the amounts that I need, okay? So 5, 10. Fabulous. So the answer is 10. If you were to count all of those dots, in fact, let's do it now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There would be 10 because 5 times 2 is equal to 10. Now, if I know that 5 times 2 is equal to 10, then I also know something else. I know that multiplication is commutative, so I can just swap those numbers around and I would get the same answer. That's another multiplication equation that I could write for this array. So I could also do 2 times 5 is also equal to 10. Amazing. Okay, now I have my 2 multiplication equations. I now need to think about my 2 division equations, okay? So remember, when we're dividing, we always start with the whole, okay? So this time I'm going to start with the whole, so that's how many dots there are all together, and we counted that to be 10. And we're going to divide that by, first of all, the amount of rows that we have. So how many rows do we have? Well, let's count them again so we can be sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 rows. So 10 divided by 5 is equal to 2. Brilliant. Now you can draw it out to check that if you want to, but I know that you all know that that is correct. Okay, let's have a look. Now we need to come up with our next division equation. So we're going to start with our whole again, 10, and we're going to divide it this time by the amount of columns that we have. There are 2. So 10 divided by 2, and we know that if we divide something by 2, it's just halving. So 10 divided by 2, or 10 halved, is 5. Brilliant. So I hope you can see how I have come up with my 4 equations there, 2 multiplication and 2 division. And I would like you to do that for each of the arrays on your worksheet.